Okay, so carrying on with the scheme of work, we're going to look at data collection forms and screen layouts, and you're going to understand the purpose of data collection forms. So, now, success criteria. Very, very simple. We're going to understand why we use data collection forms and understand good practice when designing a form and create a screen layout. So, what are data collection forms? Now, these are generally designed on paper, okay? And they will be handed to, say, somebody that wants to join a club, maybe a reply slip in school. So these are when you are responding to something and there's no need for a computer or there's no computer available. So they're documents that collect the data like your name, your address, your contact details, or as you can see from the reply slip, yes, I will be able to attend, no, I will not be able to attend. And obviously we need to know the person's name and so on. So there's several different purposes for them. So it could be, for example, application forms for memberships, like to a gym, to a club, to a society, anything like that. Maybe market research questionnaires. So maybe, for example, you might go around your local shopping centre and someone may be standing there with a clipboard and a form, and they may ask you to fill it in, saying, you know, are you male or female? Which age group are you in? What shops do you use? Why do you come to this centre? Do you come here once a week, once a month, 3 times a week, and so on? Do you eat in the restaurants here? How do you find the food, and so on? So when they want to find out more to maybe improve the facilities. Job application forms could be one. So for most job applications these days are online, okay, but maybe some jobs will still require for you to fill in a form, such as smaller businesses. And reply slips that are generally used in schools or in clubs. So the information that we may require, like I've handed out reply slips at school, is I just simply wanted to know whether the person can or cannot attend the trip, if we can bill them for the deposit, the child's name and the parent's signature. And that's all I require. So form design is important because you do want the data that is required and you want it without any confusion. Okay, so for example, you may ask someone to tick medical conditions, but do they have those medical conditions? Have they suffered those medical conditions in the past? Okay, now good practice when designing a form. So it is important when designing a form. You do want to get the data and you don't want people to start getting angry when filling it in or get confused or get bored. So when designing a form, you should follow these protocols. Now, always think about if it's going to be printed in colour or in black and white. Because if you put loads of colours on a screen, it might look good on the screen, but when you print it, it's going to look awful. Provide instructions when completing the form, okay? Because bearing in mind people are going to be writing this and you need to be able to read their writing. So one way you may be able to read their writing without a problem is if they write in block capitals, okay? Maybe a cross instead of a tick, okay? So things like that. Whatever makes it easier for you to read the form and for you to see the form. Give clear instructions where the form should be returned. Okay, because it can happen. Someone can fill out a form, then they look, okay, where do I take this? Who does this go to? And then once you hand it back, it may just get lost in a chain of administration. Okay, so a form may need to directly go back to somebody. So for example, when I've asked for return slips to be returned, reply slips to be returned in school, I've asked them to come directly to me, not to the form tutors, because you know, they may end up in the form tutor's room, in the tutor folder, and, you know, then a deadline may pass. So always look at where the form has to be returned and make sure you clearly indicate that on the form. State which questions are optional to answer and which are mandatory. Okay, so because some questions you might like them to answer those questions, but it could be private information or considered private. And obviously there's some things that should be mandatory. So for example, if it's a job application form, you need to get in touch with somebody as to whether they've got an interview or not. And if they don't provide, say, their email address or their telephone number, the only way you can get in touch with them, for example, is the address that they've given on the form, where you've got to send a letter and it's going to take 2 days to get there, and so on. Provide enough space for the user to answer. Now, if you want to get in touch with somebody, or you want to know enough about somebody, you need to give them enough space to answer the question. Otherwise, their writing may go very, very small and very messy, then you can't read it. Maybe use tick boxes or check boxes for multiple choice questions, and limit how many choices that they can pick. Okay, because someone may pick loads and someone may pick none. Now, fonts must be consistent. Okay, so what you don't want to see on a form is every different question. And believe me, I've seen people, girls in particular, do this in school. Every question's got a different font. Okay, so make sure the fonts are consistent. Good, clear fonts such as Verdana. Okay, and make sure they're consistent throughout the entire form. And the only thing that should change is maybe the style. Like some things, if you want to push some points forward, they must be in bold. Don't put too much on the form, okay? So keep it simple, keep it real. And font styles must be clear and a good size, okay? So like I said, if you want to push a point of importance, that should be in bold, okay? If something's optional, maybe put it in italics. And don't make your fonts massive, like a size 20, it looks horrible. If you need a customer response, it's always a good idea. Then rather than getting them to write down what they're thinking, just get them to select on a scale, like 1 is very satisfied and 5 is not satisfied at all. Right, what I want you to do now is pause this video, and I want you to look at this form, and on a Google Doc, I would like you please to discuss what is good about this form and what can be improved. Okay, look at the form, look at what's on there. Is there enough space for the people to answer the questions? Okay, for example, is there enough information on there? Is there too much information? Are there some things that can be put into a scale, or maybe the form could be bigger? Okay, and then there's choices that they can tick. Right, so pause this video now and answer your questions on a Google Doc. Welcome back. We're going to look at screen layouts now. Okay, these are similar to forms, but they're on a computer. Okay, they're on a screen. And they tend to have more validations and they tend to be consistent. Okay, so like for example, you can't leave a question blank. It will just come up in red saying you need to answer this question. So they tend to have things like, drop down menus, for example, here, so you can choose. Okay, this is what they look like. And, you can see they've got radio buttons, as you can see here. And I suppose any of this that may be left blank, it will probably highlight in red and won't let you move on. Okay, so now, good practice when designing screen layouts, for example, is use colours sparingly. Okay, so don't go thinking, oh, because it's a screen, it looks great, you put in a mass of colours, because the colours will just jump out of the screen and people will tend to find them quite irritating. And think of colours for certain questions and think of what colours represent. So for example, red might be considered a bit negative. Okay, so if there's questions that you want answered, maybe you can highlight those in green. Okay, so ensure fonts are used consistently. Again, just because you're on a computer doesn't mean to say that you should be showing all sorts of fonts. And avoid cluttering the screen. Okay, so like as you can see here with this example, there's lots of white space, which is quite nice. And to be honest, it's a screen, so they can go to the next screen for the next part of the form. Okay, right. Just because it's a screen, don't put loads of images and loads of boxes. As I said before, good clear fonts are good clear sizes. Again, just because it's on a screen doesn't mean to say you should be using massive fonts or tiny fonts. Size 12 seems to be, is quite good. Now the screen may require user input. Well, it probably will. So make sure you include instructions like, for example, choose one from the drop-down menu. And identify questions again that should be answered using validation procedures. And again, provide enough space for each answer. Okay, so on the screen you've got that opportunity. So you can use text boxes, and text boxes will extend to a size so the customer can fill in the information. Okay, then use digital tools such as drop-down menus and combo boxes. They're all very useful, and you will get the information that you require from your customer. Okay, right, so that's all very simple. Look at the figure on page 258, okay, for more pointers. And what I'd like you to do now is using, if you have Access, you can use Access, it may be a good idea, or you can use Microsoft Excel for this, and I'd like you to create a library screen. So, Tawara Library are investing in a new software to display their books as a screen layout, such as this, rather than this, okay? So, as the IT expert, it's your job to design the screen layout. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to think about the information that is needed to store a book, such as the name, the author, the title, the ISBN number, the publishers, the year it was published. Is it hardback? Is it softback? Is it a digital book? Okay, all this information needs to go into your screen layout. Now, once you've done that, print screen it. Okay, describe the methods that you've used. Okay, because bearing in mind this is for your exam, and why you've used them. And I'd like those to go on a Google document, please, and uploaded as an assignment on Google Classrooms. Very best of luck.